controls, and below it is the radio head for the VHF Mabas radio, so all the VHF interoperable channels, iFern, all the Fireground channels are all on there. And then down here in the dash, they just maybe 2 years ago came in and installed a Starcom radio in it, so you can communicate directly with either Orland Central or Red Center, whomever's running the incident. So that's what your radios are there for. Your master switch is a chrome switch down here on the floor behind the driver's seat. A lot of guys forget that if they don't see it. It looks completely different than what are on most of our apparatus for a master switch, so guys tend to overlook it. That's what that chrome switch is down there. This space right here is a control room. We'll get to that at the very end. That is only accessible through the cabin. So you got to go in through the driver and the passenger seat to get to that piece. Inside this hatch right here, this was a part that was redone differently after they'd been out a few years. I had a couple trucks a year came out. It was a multi-year project. But you have a shoreline connection here. So if you pull up to a light tower generator, can operate the truck. The only thing on this truck that the truck has to be running for is if you want to heat and cool the back, because it uses the compressor off of the truck's climate control. Other than that, everything else can be operated off of the generator, the onboard generator, or off of shore power. You do have a shoreline connection, which if it is installed the same as ours is, you'll be able to have all the interior 110 lights are all on a single switch. So there's a couple lights in here and the rest in the back there. So if you're in there doing inventory or cleaning or maintenance or whatnot, you can have it plugged into shoreline to take care of that. Both sides of the truck in the same location is a 1.5-inch female connection for your water supply. We really only need 40, 50 pounds, and that's going to be plenty of pressure. So what if you have a tender, an engine, or directly off of a hydrant, you don't have to have a much of a water supply. Each of the sprinkler heads, each of the shower heads is 5 gallons a minute, so it's not a whole lot of flow. There is a booster pump inside. We've never even turned ours on because it's not been necessary. And we've had all the showers going at the same time, especially when we got a bunch of guardsmen working in there. The only difference on the other side is just on the inside over here, and there's a sticker. There's the one drain that drains all the plumbing is on the passenger side. There are receptacles located around the vehicle throughout. These bubble lights that I'll call them, those are 12 volt scene lights. There's a control panel we'll see here in this room. They're labeled as perimeter lights. One switch turns them all on. This is an exit door to come out from the redress area of the shower room. This whole aluminum structure here, we'll get into that in a little bit, all unfolds, opens up, and makes for a large canopy area, so you can have some modesty, you can have shelter from the sun or the rain. There are end caps that you can stick on with Velcro, so you have additional modesty protection. The intent of out here is for non-ambulatory patients, so you don't have to climb up steps to get them in and out of the truck. We have 4 plug-ins where you can hook in your shower heads. This says fresh on here. You're just going to get fresh water out of these. The port down here that says Decon, if you, well, I'll show it to you on the inside, you can mix up a soap and water solution, throw the pickup tube into it, similar to an inline foam inductor, and it'll put out a 10% soap solution. And you'll get that out of here. And you can turn that on and off. If you don't turn that on, you'll get fresh water out of here. But this is the only place that is possibly plumbed to bring soap out. Storage is in here, a large roll-out tray. On both ends of the truck, there is a jack for your controller for your lift gate. We do have a switched outlet right here. As part of the non-ambulatory setup, we've got some rollers for rolling of patients on a backboard or Stokes. There is a containment pool that we'll set up, and there is a low profile, hopefully, there's a low profile sump in there for pumping off any water that builds up inside of that containment. And then there's also another receptacle right here. The truck does not carry any fresh water. It does have a 100-gallon gray water tank, and then after that, you gotta find something else to do with your water. That does take a while with only 5-gallon-a-minute nozzles. It does take a little while for that to start to fill up, and there is a gauge that's in the back of the cab that we'll see later. But one of the ways there is a small pump, and this is the discharge for that pump. It's not a fun job to sit there because you have to hold the button and just let that thing run, and it takes forever. It is by no means a high volume pump. It takes a long time to empty that thing out, but that's where it would discharge from. Both corners on the rear of the truck, there are 110 volt scene lights, similar to what you'd find on your apparatus. Those are on that switch panel on the back of the cab that we'll see later, and they're labeled left side scene, right side scene. They're both on, they're on a separate switch and operate off of the generator. Come on right here to the back side. So if you look up on top, you see those two little gray boxes. There is a camera system. There's 2 cameras on the outside, and there's 2 cameras on the inside in what would be the redress area. The purpose of those is not to be a peeping Tom or a pervert. The purpose of those is for one person that's in the back of the cab is able to monitor people that are going through the cab. You don't physically have to have somebody in there watching them. There's no means for hooking up a recording device. One thing I will say is where those were mounted, if you look directly below them, you'll see a line of hooks. Everybody see those hooks up there? Those hooks is where the privacy canopy attaches to the truck for this enclosure that comes out here. When that is up, when you look at that screen, it's just red because you're looking at the top of the canopy. So that was a poorly designed idea. So what we did on ours is we unbolted it and we moved it down just inside, just onto the inside of that first red warning light. So that way it's just underneath the canopy. So you might choose, that might be a project for somebody one day is to reposition those 2 cameras so that way they still work. Looking down underneath here, you'll see on both ends it has a scissor style jacks like you'd find on an RV or camper. The purpose of that is not to raise the truck off the ground. The truck has an air ride suspension, and so when people are walking up the staircase that will be here in the back, the truck can start getting a little bouncy. It's just to firm the truck up. So you're not lifting it off the ground, you're just firming that rear end. You see the 2 yellow valves here? Those are both direct drains to that 100-gallon gray water tank. So our setup procedure is that we will hook up a wastewater hose to that, whether we're going to need it or not. Those both go to the same place. They just put it on a T so you have easy access off of either side. We'll hook up one of those wastewater hoses, so if we find that we're going to need additional storage space beyond the 100 gallons, the hose is already in place. We've got an outside bladder that we can hook up. It's just a lot easier than somebody having to crawl underneath the truck mid-operation. So, and whenever we are in storage, we leave those valves open so that tank can breathe and we don't have condensation or any product building up in there. So they're in the open position now, but they are also capped. So. All right, over here to the passenger side. A lot of similarities over here. Again, another pole light, another receptacle for plugging in your up-down controller for your lift gate, another box here for storage. What's unique on this side is the controls for those scissor jacks on the back. It's just a toggle switch for each one. Up is up, down is down. So that's the only difference on this side. This side does have a chute. There's another level handle on the inside. So this could be set up to be a laundry chute. Our normal procedure is not for them to come into the vehicle with any contaminated clothing on. Just less cleaning we got to do later. But if you had some kind of small scale operation, or maybe it's a dive team thing and they want to throw their dirty wetsuits out or whatever, you could set this up and they got a chute they can throw out and have a garbage can out here to collect items. And you just have one on this side, you do not have that on the other side. This is a regular RV style awning here. So somewhere, maybe in that roll up, there should be a little hook or grabbing a hold of that little tag right there. Make sure it's unlocked. We'll go through that when we set these sides up, and you can open that up. Good for rehab, setting spare equipment up underneath if it's inclement weather, whatever you choose to do with it. We've got another receptacle, again, another intake here. The sticker here looks like it's gone, so maybe something else you might want to use a label maker and just make a label that says drain on it, because the drain is just off to the left, over right here. It's just a quarter turn ball valve. Everything drains out of that one spot. Truck has a 10,000 watt diesel generator. That was locked. Key should be able to key ring. You can start the generator from the generator itself. Just toggle switch, hold it down. It'll flash orange while it preheats, and then it'll fire off. Or in the center of the dash, you can start the truck as well. The trucks came with enough modesty suits and wool blankets for 200 people. So there's wool blankets stuffed in all over the place. This is probably the easier way to access that back room because you don't have to work around the steering wheel. If you want to heat and cool the box in the back, just flip that switch that says HVAC, and that'll spin the compressor up to power up the unit that's in the back. This is the switch panel back here, so all these lights and the entire truck are all in one switch. All those bubble lights are on this one here. Right scene, left scene, and then there are two heaters. There's one behind each of these panels, and turn them on. You can watch that gray tank water level. And then you can also watch your water pressure coming in. It has a 300 PSI PRV on it. I can't imagine why anybody would ever hit this truck with more than 300 pounds, even close. Idle is enough. And then with each of those two heaters, this is the temperature controller for each one of them. Mm-hmm. Now they put 150 feet Fahrenheit. You're going to scald the shit out of somebody. About 105. So we'll make sure and talk about that. This is the TV system here. So just a tiny little screen. Can't see a whole hell of a lot, but at least you can monitor to see if somebody has fallen down in there. And then there is an intercom system. There's an intercom on the back of the truck and inside the shower room. Very similar to probably what like you have on a ladder truck. The big round horn, yep. And you got to hold down on the button to talk. Yeah, so you can talk to people in there. This black piece is up to unlock and down to lock it for travel. So raise it up in the unlock position. Use the $8 tool. And then you can extend these out and up, and you can put it in whatever position you want it to be in. take it out and put your water position, drain it, let the water come off one direction or the other. So we gotta pull that pin to get it out. Is the master still on?
I get it.
Okay. And I don't remember if the key needs to be on or not. There is two in the controllers. Our particular unit, we keep one right here, and we keep the spare underneath the passenger seat.
Just the master's on right now, but.
Okay. That's enough. All right, so you just need to get it enough so it's out of that cradle. And then if you have a guy on each side, you just kind of pull a little bit through the truck. These work better, so this lift gate isn't a lift gate like you'd see on like a delivery truck. It goes down by the will of God, and it comes up on a good day. All right. So if you lay this bed down when you're going down, it takes forever because all of the weight is spread out real wide. So you almost have to have somebody on each side kind of leaning on to push it down. It works better if you can keep it in a more vertical position. It'll come down a lot faster. It's just a little bit. If you see on the side here, red line up here, max, another red line down here at the bottom, doesn't say minimum, but you want this red line here should line up with that red line there to put you in the right position for sitting in the stairs for climbing up into the truck. This max is super important because you're starting to see there's two walk-in doors there. When those doors are open, there's no limit switch. This ramp will go all the way up and take those doors right off with it and not think about it. All right, it won't stop. So you got to pay attention to that. So we'll bring it down a little ways. You don't need to bring it down all the way because we're going to be unloading equipment. Further segregate by not having mixed sexes in the truck at the same time would probably be wise. So yeah, you can use those to segregate. Shower heads, fresh water only. The black hoses that are hanging down with the little spray ones on them, those also give you fresh water, but if you hook up, if you mix up a bucket of soapy water, I'll show you guys up at the very front, that door all the way at the opposite end. I'll show you that in a bit. That's where you can mix in the Decon solution. You'll get soap solution out of those hose wands. Just water out of the shower heads themselves. Okay, so that's that. These right here, these are our handles. The way they work, there's little tabs you pull down on here. The handles come out so people have something to hold on to whenever they're climbing up those stairs to get to the inside. All right. So we've got all of our equipment out of the back of the room. Now on the setup sheets that I'll share with you guys, again, these trucks were made over a period of about 5 years, and there's some various nuances between them. Our particular truck, the nose is just a little bit lower than the front end. So on one of our initial setup instructions is we've made some step chocks out of 2x8s, and we'll actually drive the front tires up on the step chalk to make sure the nose is level, because sitting on flat ground, it's not. So there's 6 drains in the floor there, and there's just a little bit of a curb that divides the shower room from that redressing area. All the water rushes to those front 2 drains, and if you're on any incline at all, it goes over that hump, and the dirty water goes into the redressing area. So we made ourselves up with some little step chalks to drive it up on, raise that nose out of that, solve that problem. Okay, so we've got we got everything out. So we've got, you see there's the hooks across the top that are gonna be for our canopies. So what we need to do now is, you guys will grab that frame there. The hinge side is gonna be out here on this thing. Okay? All right, don't drop it into the receiver, right? Don't drop it into the receiver yet. So we've got this hole here, which actually should have been stored right here on the outside. Push button there. Okay, so now nothing's out, that's not gonna come off. All right, so now that that's in place, we can, I don't wanna drop that in yet, because now we're gonna bring this guy out here. All right, move this way, yep. Tim, you should have one on your side there. Okay, now I'm in over here.
Going faster.
Yeah. Yep, no, we go past. There we go. All right. So now I have one guy in the middle. I'll push up on this, and you guys pivot your sides in, and now you can drop them in the receivers. Going further, this is the structure here. Before we start putting the tarps up, we'll go ahead and get this thing in the right position. So we're going to bring this red line here down level to this red line on the side there. One or two guys on the inside and a guy on the outside on the ladder to help hook all these up.
Hello. No, spaced out even worse. We got one more.
You missed the hook.
Some departments got a guy calling up that he can just reach it up and over, but most of them will help from the ladder. There you go. And then we have all those tie-offs, so then you can just, it doesn't have to be much of anything. This is a simple overhand tie-off. The vertical and the horizontal to hold that in place. I just do one or two and we'll call it good. Like everybody's calling these. You can see we got grommets again. Something that was originally planned but did not materialize was to also have 3 vertical rows of hooks for anchoring these to the trunk. And that didn't happen, they didn't get installed on the trunk. However, that's the edge that goes against the trunk. And then we just simply go add it on. That corner is a little funky, you can't get this right. So now it's well enclosed, yeah, you might be able to see their feet. One shortcoming that we found is that because they did not put those hooks in on the back of the truck for the verticals, this back corner is loose, it's not secured anyway, so if it's a windy day, we've had these be caught and flown out. So we keep all those tarps in one Rubbermaid hook together, and we have a handful of bungee cords in there, and we can just hook one of these bottom grommets, wrap it around something on the frame, just tie it back on itself so it's not free when it's secure. So if you look up top there, you can see what I referred to earlier about the cameras. So the cameras are well positioned on top of the privacy awning, so you cannot monitor the people that are inside undressing. So again, something you might want to consider is unbolting those and reattaching them underneath. It will be a very simple project. Again, with all the perimeter lighting on, it's well lit in there, and there's that speaker in there, so the person that is in that control room in the back of the cab, if they see somebody struggling with something, they can get on there and say, hey, take your shoes off. Don't forget, take your shirt off, you know, whatever instruction they might need. Decon showers, but the intention is for non-ambulatory, and we do need to set up our catch basin. So for that, our cable, get that out of the way. Hey, I won't tell you guys how to do it, but I don't know if you guys have any kind of containment pools that are like these or not. They're definitely not something disposable. Normally disposable, but they do work well. So if everybody inside this yellow toolbox here, just a quick pull back locking collar. Make sure after you put these on that you give them a little pull, because I can't tell you how often once you pressurize the system, shoo, one of these goes flying off of the truck. And these are an open and there's no shut off from the intakes to here. And if you don't put these on, whether you're going to use the outside showers or not, water is going to come gushing out the side of the truck. So you always have to put these, or if you decide to buy some kind of cap, whatever, that's just something else to carry around. But put them on and just make sure that they go on all the way. So we have a T in here. We have some flexibility with our setup here. There should be some additional loose black hoses with wands on. You guys, because it's all the same fitting, you can hook these into here. Again, fresh water only, or you can hook them down here if you want to be able to flow soap solution through these, and you could have both of them. Something else that was in the box is this adapter here. This is important for the winter time. It's a good idea to blow the system out. So thread it into either one of the intakes, hook it up to an air compressor, and let it blow the moisture out. And it's a good idea just to leave your drain and your intakes open all the time anyway, so they get a chance to breathe. If there's any water pulled up, have a better chance of evaporating. We did butt one of our intake valves out on an incident because the valves were closed and there was moisture built up in there. It froze and cracked it. So we're going to get that out of the way. All right, so we have this in a position. So let's get the sawhorses and the 2 sets of rollers out. All right, so if you look on these, on this section, you guys will hold it up this way. You see this little triangle on the 2 ends? That is intended to set down inside this space on the top of these sawhorses to hold them in position.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so once you find the sweet spot and you get it where you want it, you can adjust them to where you want it. Guys, it's totally your call as to where you position these. I've seen teams that want these rollers tied up against the vehicle, so water is constantly coming down, flooding onto the patient. And the people who are working the decon line are on the outside. I've seen it the opposite of that, where they're using the wands instead of these showers. I mean, this is by the time they got to this truck. But there may or may not be 2 hoses that have that female fitting on both ends. So you can plug it in there and then into here. But do you see where the nozzles? You guys see the nozzles on that one, on this one here? Where are they at? They're between the rollers and they're doing what? They're facing up. Where are you at in this process? You're up, all right? So you're gonna be getting sprayed in the face while you're trying to do this job. So yes, it serves a purpose by washing the person's backside. But if you take a moment and you roll them over while you're disrobing them, you should have been washing or rinsing their backside anyway. So I would rather, I would rather not be shot in the face with water the entire time. I'd rather water be going downward to my feet instead of up into my face. The only thing left is how to handle our wastewater. And I think that's all. So this is the low profile strainer. And you can put this, there's enough cord in here. You can plug it in over there and you put it in whatever low corner there is. You put that in the low corner, and as water starts to accumulate inside the containment area here, it'll pump it off to your overpack, whatever you're going to set up for gray water containment. And there's a whole bunch of garden hose in there, so you can run it off to wherever. Secure it in place, and then the rest of it is just spring clips. So you need to be very careful when you're packing this up that everything is in its clip and it's stored right, because there's not a whole heck of a lot of really security. This is, especially if you're bouncing down the interstate, air's getting inside of that awning and creating drag. Might know there may be some horror stories out there of people that have lost parts and pieces. So the way these work is the half that has a spring is the foot end. So it's got that foot plate on it. Somebody wants to grab that middle one there. This one does not look like it had it. Ours, when we received it, because it was screwed in, but the little bungee balls, the little plastic ball with like a 6-inch bungee. So when these are in storage, they're bungeed together as well, hold them together. So that might be something expensive you guys can do. So now we're going to pull it out, and then this comes out and pivots up. All right. So if we have our containment area out, we need to make sure that our feet are outside of that containment. We don't want it setting inside. Then these bars here are for shoring up the corners. So that guy right there, kick him out. What's that? All right. So now that those are in place, this is it. All right. This is the framework of it. It's got holes in the bottom, so if you're in a grassy area or on the roadbed, you might be able to throw some stakes into it if it's windy, flapping around. So now our next step, we'll put a ladder on both ends. We'll undo these two bungee cords. Yep, set that off to the side. You're going to want to be on the outside of that bar. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and scoot yourself over. There you go.
Chill, dude.
There you go. Now lift that bar up out of that hook, and now we'll just start unrolling. Now, this might be my OCD, but when we roll ours, we roll it under instead of over. So rainwater, or when we're washing the truck, whatever, cannot accumulate inside it. All right? Now the way this is made, we've done this before. Let's stop right there. Let's say that we want to use this for another shade area for rehab or whatever. This doesn't have to go all the way down, because when you drop these down, if it's a sunny day, it gets really warm inside of there. So we can stop right here. We can use these ties, or we can tie it off and hold it whatever position along here we want to. That would hold it in place. But if we're doing no decon, we want that modesty protection, we're going to let it go all the way to the ground. This is holding up down there just fine. If we tie this one off, it'll be good to go. All right, so we'll let that go all the way down. All right, so that one is set. Again, we got these ties, so across the top, down in with these other tarps. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and all three are identical. So it doesn't matter which one is middle, left, right. All right, so here was another little goof up. They did like on this one here. We got a handle strip of Velcro to tap it into place and locks it down real fast. We don't have that here. They did these grommets. So we could either dink around with trying to run one of those straps through here, or we could keep a bundle of zip ties in the kit so we can zip strip it real fast and be done with it. So we can just go up, and then it's perforated, so it gives you some modesty, but you're able to easily transition in and out of there. Okay, and there's one of those for both ends. Second, now here's what you can see. There's little big chips over here. Somebody needs to come and spin these around so you don't ram those into the paint and you try to paint up on the truck.
Those aren't very tight.
Yeah, no, that was not. Yes, that's why I said that buying one of those little bungee balls would be a cheap investment. Carrying those quite a bit better. So this is our framework in this bag here. And if you guys want to pull that out, this is the tank itself. This is a 1,500 gallon external for the tank. So go ahead and unroll that guy and get it out. Does that look intuitive to put together? It looks like a duty injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, no shit.
So, what? Yeah, he's getting there. We got a tripod going. If you can find the end of the hook, that's the vertical piece. All right. Just let it lay out. This one's going to come up. In there. Once you find that hook, it's not too terrible to put together. Get that hook vertical, spread the legs, and then pin it into the hole.
I don't know if you know how to start the
There you go.
We'll give a love.
All right, so this is a internal frame tank instead of external. So this goes on the inside. Because the salesman of an Amboy or wherever these guys are at is a man, miss, I got a deal for you. Ground over there, the fitting came out of that bag. So it's just capped right now. You can put that fitting on there. It's got the 2-inch banjo fitting, which all the wastewater hoses use. We'll make sure to find those there someplace. You have to turn that back on. All right, so here's our modesty kits. Should have been provided 200 without counting the boxes. I don't know if you actually have that many. Should have been 200 of these and 200 blankets. I'm certain there's not 200 blankets in there. But you can see this is a 2-part kit. So red is your pre-decon. It has a bag for you to strip your clothes off, put the red modesty suit on, and then it has a personal belongings bag that you can put watch, wallet, rings, any of that kind of personal stuff into. And it has a barcode and a number on it, and it also has a tearaway wristband, so you can put the wristband on while your belongings will be isolated until stuff gets clean until it can be returned to you. So once you have so you're going to wear this through the decon part, and then once you get to the truck, ideally, once you get to the truck, you're going to strip out of it and then go in for your shower. And you'll take the green part in with you. The green part is basically the same thing, where it is just it's a green body covering. There is a high absorbent towel inside of it. There is a box in there that has quite a few additional towels that you can set out if people need them. There should be a set of foot covers in there, and there's also a plastic cone. So if you want to put a mirror in there so people look good. But that's what these are for. Now you notice that it is circled for the size. I looked at to see what the difference is, and it's a difference of 4 inches of length. The bags are the same size girth-wise, it's just the amount of length on them. So you'll have to look and see what you actually got, and if you even worry about or care about keeping those separated. On the inside, there was a power switch for a right heater, or roadside curb heater, and then each one has a thermostat. Despite the sticker in there, it says 150 degrees. 105 degrees is really what you should shoot for. You want it lukewarm. You don't want it so hot that it's going to A, burn them, or B, when it hits their skin, it dilates their skin so much that it's going to allow stuff to absorb in. And you don't want it cold too, where it's going to get trapped inside those skin pores. So about 105 is a good temperature to have it at. Top box is all of your 110 volt breakers. Behind this middle panel here is all your 12 volt fuses. On the side over there is your transfer switch to go from generator to shore power. It's an automatic transfer switch. It is pretty slow. It takes a little time for it to sense that other power source and transfer over. On this wall over here is that pressure booster that I mentioned early on. We've never had an occasion where we've needed to use it, because just to run it off of idle from an engine or a tender or a hydrant has always been plenty of pressure to operate on. We've got two things over there. One is the controls for the HVAC, it's on the wall. And then the other is that soap induction system. So if you want to get that soap solution through these hoses or through that Decon port, that's where you set it up at. Yeah, and it's got a pickup tube, so you can set a bucket up down here, and it looks like they've got a bucket of Johnson & Johnson's here, which is great to have that available. And then same style. If you see that red, right now it's engaged, and that is disengaged. There used to be a little sign here. So if you're not getting any soap, it's because that's popped open. You got to close that, and it'll create that venturi to pull that soap solution in.
What's the bypass flow off and on for?
I've never had to open those covers up before, so they've